going on, everybody? This is Tom Driver. I hope you're having a great day, and welcome back to another video. Alright, so for today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about why we as Muslims do Ramadan. Now, obviously, we are currently in the midst of Ramadan as we speak. Well, the final days of it. We're entering the final week of Ramadan right now. But obviously, it is that 1 month of the year in which all of us in the Islamic community go an entire 29 or 30 days without eating anything for a few hours a day, from the first day of the month all the way to the very last. And obviously I've talked quite a bit about this before, but I haven't told you the full meaning of it. So I'll go ahead and share with you a few reasons why we as Muslims do Ramadan every year. Now obviously we live complex lives as Muslims, in which obviously everything that we do impacts the way that we live, and ultimately it determines how we ultimately go about where we end up when we die, whether we end up in heaven or in hell. And really our God, which is Allah, really determines a lot about where we end up going at the very end of our lives. And Ramadan is one of the key pillars that we do every year. That really determines what happens to us at the very end of our lives. I know I've talked to you quite a bit about Ramadan. It is obviously one of the most grueling things that the first timer might do, but for me, obviously, and a whole lot of other people in my religion, I've done this literally for a long time, obviously, for almost about like 15-16 years. My first time really doing Ramadan in a very serious form was in 2008, and I've done it every year ever since. And for me now, it's basically almost like a cakewalk. But for a lot of other people, obviously, it can be very tough for the very first time. And I know there are a lot of people, obviously, that are wondering why we do it. It is tough, obviously, having to go through it every year, but I am going to share with you 3 reasons as to why we as Muslims have to do this every year. And the first reason as to why we do this is because it is one of the 5 pillars in regards to how we are supposed to live our lives. Now, of course, there are 4 other pillars that we also follow that determine where we end up after we die. But obviously, Ramadan is one of those 5 important pillars that we have to do. We are basically required by our religion to have to do this every single year, because it is one of the most important ways that Allah may determine whether or not we end up in heaven or hell. Obviously, one of the other things that we have to do is, of course, we also have to do our prayers, obviously, and of course, a whole bunch of other things, So obviously, it is very important that we have to follow it, because as you all know, just like with God and most other religions, Allah, obviously, He is really the determining factor of what happens to us after we die. He determines where we go and what we do, and a lot of that has to do with what we do and with our actions. And obviously Ramadan is one of the most important things in regards to that. So obviously, if you are a Muslim, if you're doing Ramadan every year and you're doing it to the best of your ability, and you're going through it all the way to the day that you die, then obviously Allah is going to reward you for that. He's going to make you more likely to give you a chance to go to heaven after you die, and ultimately it makes your life a whole lot better. But if you don't do it every year, or if you decide that obviously you really aren't in favor of your religion and you basically just ignore it outright, obviously hell is going to be waiting for you, unless you convert out of Islam to another religion. However, of course, if you do it in a country outside the US, obviously somewhere in the Middle East, obviously, then really the only thing that happens to you if you do that is you ultimately end up being punished by death. So yeah, it's obviously very important. It really determines what happens to us after we die. And so really, if we do Ramadan every single year, Allah is going to reward us. So the fact that it is one of the 5 pillars of how we're supposed to live our lives, obviously that is a major reason as to why we do Ramadan every year. The second reason as to why we do Ramadan is that it really forces us to really give a spiritual reflection on ourselves. It really forces us to really have a much deeper understanding into who we are as people and why we live our lives the way we do. Now, I'm not saying that Ramadan every year is supposed to feel like suffering, because obviously, having to go through 12 to 13 hours a day without eating anything, obviously that may sound like that we are suffering, but we're not. It's something that we've done for a long time. It's something that we do every single year, and obviously for most of the day, you don't even feel like that you're hungry. So obviously, having to go through this every year, like I said before, it feels like a cakewalk for most, obviously. But again, there may be other things that are happening outside Ramadan in our lives where we may actually feel some sort of suffering. Maybe, we have like a loss in our family or in our lives, or maybe there's just a personal situation situation that really is causing a whole lot of stress, and really everything's just not right in your world. Well, Ramadan is obviously one of those things that really forces us to reflect on ourselves. You know, it really forces us into having a deeper understanding of why we live the way we do, and ultimately how we as people can become better. Now, I'm not saying it's the best way for us in regards to how we can improve our lives, but obviously it is important that we as Muslims do this, because obviously in order for us to understand how we can become better, we have to understand through multiple methods like Ramadan how we need to improve ourselves, because that's the only way, like I said before, we can end up getting to heaven after we die. And yeah, it just gives us a better understanding of the world around us, obviously, you know, why we live, and ultimately have that deeper understanding of how our world revolves around us, obviously. And so really Ramadan is important because, you know, it obviously gives us a better chance to understand why we live on planet Earth the way we do, and ultimately how we can become better. Which is the perfect lead-in, obviously, to the third and final reason as to why we do Ramadan every year, which is to make us become better people. Obviously, as we all know, in some ways we have to go through multiple things in our lives and also go through a lot of mistakes for us to understand how we can become better people. And Ramadan is obviously one of those things. Through Ramadan, it allows us to understand exactly why we have our communications with other people, you know, especially with people in other religions, because they understand exactly what life is like for all of us sometimes. But obviously, there are other things that, you know, in this world that really, it just becomes hard to comprehend sometimes. And so obviously, for us to be able to contribute better to our society, doing Ramadan is obviously one of those things that really allows us to become better people. And through that, you know, we have better communication with all the other people, not just in our religion, but also in people with other religions as well, you know, whether or not you're speaking good Arabic or not, which of course I'm not fluent in, obviously, but obviously, you know, it allows us to have better communication with each other. Obviously, it allows us to have a better understanding of other religions too, and also, you know, it allows us, you know, to make real impacts in our society, you know, maybe community service, or maybe even, you know, just doing some things in your town that really can help make a big impact. There are so many things in life that you can do that can help you become better. And obviously, doing Ramadan is obviously a reflection of that, you know, because maybe, you know, prior to that, you know, things may not have been going well with you, but after a whole month of going through this without going into further trouble, it can really help you with really making a big impact in the world, you know, not only, you know, like helping with, you know, like bringing attention to world hunger, obviously, because, you know, 12 to 13 hours a day is probably playing a big role in that, but obviously, you know, it also really puts a focus on a whole bunch of other issues that we as people can ultimately help out with, you know, like that, climate change, community service, you know, and just being good people to other religions as well, whether or not, you know, they're Christians, Catholics, Jewish, or Indians, or, you know, a whole bunch of other religions. So yeah, in order to become a better person, you have to do multiple things that push you out of your comfort zone. And obviously, Ramadan is one of those things. And I can tell you, through Ramadan, I have personally become a better person every year. I would not be telling you that it is tough to go through this every single year if I personally wasn't doing this. I personally don't enjoy doing Ramadan. However, I have to do this every year because obviously it is important for me to really have a chance to go to heaven when I actually die. And obviously I know there are a lot of people that are not Muslims that have also tried to attempt Ramadan as well. And you know, I can understand that, but if you are somebody that doesn't really like to go very long without eating, I can tell you personally right now, this holiday is not for you, because trust me, it is something that is probably going to get you hungry very fast. But in the end, it is important that we go through Ramadan because obviously it is a part of our religion. It is a part of our lives. Allah really put us in this world for one reason, and that is for us to live our best lives as long as we are doing everything in His name. And really, Ramadan is one of those main pillars, obviously, which we have to follow. As long as we do everything and all of that in regards to Ramadan, not only will we get rewarded big time at the very end of it, then also it really gives us an opportunity to really reflect on how we can become better people and give us a chance to go to heaven shortly after we die. Trust me, it is not easy to go through this every year, but trust me, as Muslims, we have to do this every year. And it's something that I personally always take part in every year because I know that this is something that can help me live a better life. Alright, so that's just a few reasons for me as to why we as Muslims do Ramadan. So I would like to hear from you. For those that also observe this month-long holiday, why do you observe Ramadan? Is it some of the reasons that I just mentioned below, or is it for a completely different reason? Or if you're attempting Ramadan for the first time, even as a non-Muslim, how has it been like for you? Feel free to let me know down in the comments below, and I'll be more than interested in hearing your opinions about it. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. As always, if you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when my latest video is released. Comment below for future suggestions for all my videos, whether it's vlogs, projects, or challenges, you name it. Leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to make them. And as always, follow me on my social media. All the links are in the description below. That's going to do it for this midweek upload. I hope you're having another great day. And as always, hope to see all of you again in another video very soon. So long, everybody.